Hi viewers, L hope you are fine. I still remember the exact moment my family laughed at me across the dinner table. The sound wasn't loud at first. Just small chuckles, whispers, disappointed looks hidden behind fake smiles. But then my older brother leaned back in his chair and said the words that shattered something inside me. So let me get this straight, Emma, you quit a stable corporate job to become a designer online? The entire table went silent for half a second. And then they laughed. Even my mother lowered her eyes like she was embarrassed to be related to me. I forced a smile onto my face while my hands trembled beneath the tablecloth. It's not just online, I said quietly. I build branding designs for small businesses. My father scoffed before taking a sip of wine. And how much does that little hobby make you? I swallowed hard, because the truth was, not much. Not yet, but what hurt the most wasn't their criticism. It was the fact that they had already decided I was a failure before I even had the chance to succeed. For years, my family worshipped success that looked expensive. My older brother Daniel was a lawyer. My younger sister Olivia married a surgeon. And me? I was the confused daughter, chasing creative dreams from a tiny apartment with an old laptop and unpaid bills stacked beside my bed. Every family gathering became a reminder of what they thought I lacked. Still freelancing? When are you getting a real job? You're almost 30, Emma. Sometimes I laughed along just to survive the humiliation. But deep inside, I was exhausted. The only person who truly believed in me was my fiancé, Ethan. Ethan never cared about money or status. When I cried after family dinners, he'd sit beside me on our small couch and whisper, "One day they'll see your worth." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But after years of rejection, hope becomes difficult. Then came the engagement party. The night that changed everything. My family rented an expensive restaurant downtown because Ethan's family was wealthy. Very wealthy. His father, Richard Beaumont, owned one of the largest real estate companies in the country. The kind of billionaire people read about in magazines. My mother spent weeks obsessing over the event. "Please don't embarrass us," she warned me before the party. I remember standing in front of the mirror that evening, staring at my reflection. Simple black dress, cheap heels, fake confidence. I already knew my family was ashamed of me. I just didn't know the universe was about to expose all of them. The restaurant sparkled with crystal lights and soft piano music. Everyone treated Ethan's father like royalty the moment he walked in. My family practically surrounded him with fake laughter and forced compliments. Meanwhile, I stood quietly near the balcony, trying not to feel invisible. Until Richard Beaumont suddenly stopped in the middle of the room and looked directly at me. Not with pity, not with politeness, but with shock, real shock. Then he said 5 words that silenced the entire restaurant. "You're Emma Carter, aren't you?" Mid-conflict and betrayal, the room became painfully quiet. Every head slowly turned toward me. I froze. Even Ethan looked confused. Richard Beaumont walked closer, still staring at me like he had just discovered something unbelievable. "I knew it was you," he said with a smile. "I recognize your work anywhere." My heart stopped. "My work?" I whispered. He nodded immediately. 3 months ago, one of my startup partners hired a freelance designer to rebuild our company branding after a disaster. That designer saved the entire campaign. I blinked rapidly, because I knew exactly what project he meant. The project I had stayed awake for weeks finishing. The project my family mocked because it paid less than my old office job. Richard looked around the room before saying proudly, "That designer was Emma." I could actually hear my mother inhale sharply. Daniel's confident smile disappeared instantly. And for the first time in years, nobody at that table looked at me like a failure. Richard continued speaking. "Your designs increased our engagement numbers by almost 40%. We've been trying to find you for weeks." I stared at him in disbelief. You were?" He laughed softly. "Yes, unfortunately, the agency handled communication poorly. But when Ethan showed me your photo last month, I nearly lost my mind." Ethan turned toward me with wide eyes. "You never told me that client was connected to my dad." "I didn't know," I whispered. Suddenly, my father interrupted awkwardly. "Well, Emma has always been creative." Creative, that word almost made me laugh. Because only days earlier he had called my career childish. But now his tone had changed completely. Richard didn't notice the tension. Or maybe he did, because his next words felt almost intentional. Young people like Emma are rare, he said calmly. Most follow safe paths. She built something valuable from nothing. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. Not because of the praise, but because somebody finally saw me. Not my salary, not my failures. The rest of the evening became unbearable for my family. Suddenly everyone wanted to talk to me. My sister asked questions about my business. My brother joked about needing a logo redesign. Even my mother acted proud. But I saw through all of it. For years they treated me like embarrassment wrapped in human form. Now, because a billionaire respected me, they suddenly did too. And honestly, that realization hurt more than the insults ever had. Later that night, Richard asked me to step onto the balcony with him. The city lights glowed beneath us while music echoed softly behind the glass doors. I'm going to be direct, he said. I nodded nervously. I want you to lead the creative division for our new media company. I nearly stopped breathing. You're talented, Emma, more talented than you realize. I shook my head immediately. I'm not qualified for something like that. Richard smiled knowingly. That's exactly why you are. I laughed weakly, overwhelmed. Then his expression softened. Ethan told me how your family treats you. My chest tightened. He shouldn't have said anything. He loves you, Richard replied quietly. And people who truly love you hate watching your light get dimmed. That sentence broke me, because for years, I had been shrinking myself to fit inside other people's expectations. I spent so much time trying to prove my worth that I forgot I already had it. But what I didn't know that night was that my success was about to destroy the fragile illusion my family had built for years. Ending, revenge, climax and moral. 3 months later, my entire life looked different. I moved into a beautiful office overlooking the city. I had a real team, real clients, and for the first time in my life, I felt proud introducing myself. Not because of money, not because of status, but because I finally stopped apologizing for who I was. Meanwhile, my family suddenly wanted to reconnect. My mother called constantly. Daniel invited me to expensive dinners. Olivia bragged about me online like she had supported me from the beginning. It felt fake, because it was. Then came the moment that changed everything forever. Richard hosted a large corporate charity gala for the company launch. Hundreds of wealthy investors attended. Media cameras flashed everywhere, and somehow, my parents treated the event like it was their personal victory. My mother walked around introducing herself proudly. This is my daughter's company. I stood there silently, listening. Until one investor smiled and asked her, "You must have always believed in Emma's talent." The air suddenly became heavy. My mother laughed nervously. "Oh, of course," but before she could continue, Richard interrupted calmly. "That's interesting." The room went quiet, because Richard Beaumont rarely interrupted anyone. He looked directly at my parents before speaking with chilling politeness. "Emma told me she spent years being ridiculed for her career." My father's face lost all color. Richard continued, "She succeeded despite the lack of support around her. That's what makes her remarkable." Nobody moved, nobody spoke, and for the first time in their lives, my family had nowhere to hide. The truth sat exposed beneath bright ballroom lights. Not dramatic, not loud, just undeniable. Later that night, my mother tried to apologize while tears filled her eyes. "We only wanted you to be secure." I looked at her quietly for a long moment. Then I finally said the words I had carried inside me for years. "You wanted me to become someone you could brag about." She started crying harder. But strangely, I didn't feel angry anymore. Because revenge isn't always destruction. Sometimes revenge is becoming successful enough that people are forced to face how badly they underestimated you. And the truth? Their approval no longer mattered. I had already survived without it. A year ago, I thought success meant proving my family wrong. But now I understand something much deeper. People who truly love you don't wait for the world to validate your worth before they treat you with respect. They believe in you while you're still struggling, while you're still building, while nobody else can see the future yet. That's real love, and sometimes, the greatest victory isn't becoming rich or powerful. It's finally realizing you were never a failure to begin with.